The acoustics in here are perfect for spoilers.
Yeah, no, it's still not making any sense. Which part? Well, can we start with Doflamingo making a Fortnite circle to destroy a city that he runs? What? No, yeah, I got the part about Luffy winning the fight with Katakuri because he's just, like, too stubborn to stay down. Like, Luffy is nuts, I get it. I'm sorry, what do you mean he's Bugs Bunny now? Post-Timeskip One Piece is insane. I have been dreading fulfilling the promise I made to you in the last video ever since I reminded myself just how much stuff is in this story's second half. Stuff is the key word for today because so much of it happens from here on out. There are people who spend 20 to 60 minutes every single week breaking down singular chapters from this part of the story. We left off about 580 chapters in and still have about 500 to go before we reach the end of Wano. And I want to cover all of that ground in one video. I am scared. But that's okay, we're going to be easing into things with the post-war arc. A nice and relaxing story about betrayal, classism, and cold-blooded murder. Excuse me for a second, guys, I gotta go throw up real quick. Now, people love this short little arc because they got to see Luffy and Ace's backstories, but I'm weird, so let me try to explain why I don't really care. Much like how Luffy acted towards Nami in Arlong Park, I don't really feel the need to know this character's backstory. I mean, I loved watching him do his thing while only knowing the bare minimum about his past for 600 chapters. And while it's nowhere near a bad thing to suddenly learn about it, I just got done reading Marineford. My adrenaline was spiking through the roof, and I wanted to know so desperately what happened after this earth-shattering event, you know? But no, let's go learn more about Luffy and the guy who just got permanently written out of the story. Admittedly though, it's a good one. I really like the contrast between Grey Terminal and Goa, don't care if I'm pronouncing that right because this city sucks. The sinister torching plans that consumed the junkyard and the way Oda sets up so much stuff here. We meet Sabo, who supposedly dies because the Celestial Dragons are scum, and we get to see more of Dragon, Luffy's father. That's all fine and dandy, but like I said, I was kind of rushing to get back to the present. We get another stellar moment as Luffy's despair is like driven out of his body as he screams for the world to hear that even though Ace is gone, he still has his crew. Then he starts to train with Rayleigh on Dinosaur Hell McFucking-Kill-You Island, and all the other Straw Hats follow suit, as they were all conveniently sent by Kuma to locations that can improve their specialized skills. I love the ringing of the bell that Luffy does at Marineford and how basically the entire world except for his crew misinterprets his message. They're all like, oh, this must be a political statement to stand up to the world government, for their corrupt tomfoolery shall no longer stand. No. You see, his arm says like 3D, sorry. You see, his arm says 3D, meaning 3 days, and that's like crossed out, so we're not doing that. 2 years is actually the time until we all get back together again, so that's my profound message, guys. And so, 2 years pass. You might have noticed that I still look exactly the same, and well, that's because my youthful charm will never fade. And if you think that's cool, give me money. I forgot to put the Patreon bit in the video, so I just had to slap it in there. Now, there are a lot of good time skips out there. This would be the part where I mention some of my favorites for you, but unfortunately I don't want to spoil anything accidentally. So for a shonen like One Piece, the main thing that I'm looking for is character growth, and my god, do we get it. Luffy can use Supreme King Haki now, meaning he can just knock people out without even looking at them. Usopp has a whole new bag of tricks up his sleeve after collecting all these like magical plants and stuff, plus he is ripped now, good for you, man. Frankie has been upgrading his body thanks to using Dr. Vegapunk's stuff, and he just looks absolutely insane compared to his old design. Sanji learned how to fly to get out of cross-dressing that is real, and he also learned a bunch of recipes that increase people's strength, basically a martial art for cooking. Brooke is a rock star now. Robin can use her powers, but bigger, and also has connections to the revolutionaries. Chopper has a cooler looking hat, boasts way more medical knowledge, and now has way more control over his powers. Zoro is now a fucking superhero who can make a 10-mile long cut with a 3-foot blade. Also, his redesign is by far the best out of all the Straw Hats. He looks so cool now. Nami has more of a mastery over weather, and her, her redesign is the best out of all the Straw Hats. Zoro and Sanji annihilating the pacifista that team wiped them 2 years ago is great. The best part is, we know that Luffy is stronger than these two, so it makes you wonder just how strong he can be now. Also, one of my favorite jokes in the entire manga is where Sanji talks to Zoro in fragments because he thinks he's stupid. Navy come, we go ship, run. Got it? And run they did, over 6 miles underwater in fact, and yeah, that's right, I converted it off the metric system. Fishman Island is another one of those thriller barks, Skypiea-esque arcs, where the secondary stuff like the journey to get to the island, the flashback, and the end of the arc are my favorite parts. We get more great imagery as the Thousand Sunny sails deep underwater with this giant air bubble around it. And all of these weird natural occurrences like the whirlpool thing, the Kraken, and the Flying Dutchman show up.
The monkey!
And if I can mention the art for a second, I love the shading that Oda uses in order to convey depth in this part. Now Sanji is kind of annoying in this arc. He has this subplot where he almost dies from blood loss because Nami and the mermaids are just too hot for his nostrils to handle. On top of that, we get another ensemble cast who you'll only remember about 3 of. And the first major plot point reminded me a lot of Sonic 06, you know, with the whole main character will bring doom to our land thing. That all sounds mortifying, so here's something good. More context for Arlong Park. Humans and fishmen haven't gotten along very well. Tired of being mistreated and oppressed, some fishmen turned to the Sun Pirates and their leader, Tiger. Jinbei and Arlong were both a part of this crew. And I love seeing these little snippets of arguments they had in relation to the level of brutality they're willing to treat humans with. Ultimately though, you know One Piece. These flashbacks always have to end in some kind of tragedy, and this one does not disappoint. Twice. First, the Sun Pirates return a lost human child to her family, and the town is so grateful that they call the Marines and they mortally wound Tiger. In a brilliant setup for the end of the arc, Tiger refuses to accept a blood transfusion from a human, dooming him to death. However, even though he can't forgive humanity, he urges his comrades to not follow in his footsteps. Arlong doesn't listen. In fact, he went off to build something very similar to the auction houses that were used to sell him and his people, creating this cycle of hatred. Nami, however, breaks the cycle when she hears about this, saying that while she absolutely cannot forgive Arlong for what he did, she can at least understand why he lashed out against humanity. Back on the island, Queen... oh dear lord. Otoheim, I am so sorry, advocates for human and fishman relations. She's such a saint that she spared a celestial dragon who shipwrecked on the island. You know, the guys who sell fishmen off at auction. And believe it or not, this dickhead noble is actually grateful for this and wants to help out her cause. Oh my god. So they go back to the surface and like drum up a ton of support, then they decide like, okay, let's go back to Fishman Island and like tell everyone of our progress. And then the princess is shot and killed by a fisherman who blames it on a human in order to like prolong the hatred and we were so close. This is so intriguing and heartbreaking. And then meanwhile in the present, Luffy is getting bodied by someone way weaker than him because he can't swim. This being the first big post-Timeskip arc, I really wanted to see what Luffy could do at full strength, not this like nerfed version of him that can't even destroy a pirate ship without almost dying. Maybe I'm wrong and this feat is actually really impressive all things considered, but I just remembered feeling really disappointed when first reading this. But again, the ending kinda saves it. Jinbei gives blood to Luffy through a transfusion, overriding the act that stood as a symbol for human and fishman hatred for so many years. What a cool guy, that Jinbei. Say, do you want to join my crew? Yup, I can't right now, but I'll be with you guys very soon. How does 8 years sound? What? How do you think it sounds? Haha, great, see you then. And of course, the best part of the arc is Luffy calling up manga. No, calling up manga. And of course, the best part of the entire arc is Luffy calling up Big Mom. I don't think I got a bigger laugh in the entire manga. Everyone is so terrified of her because she's an Emperor of the Sea, which basically means she's like 30 times stronger than anyone Luffy has fought up to this point. She is not to be messed with. Luffy finds himself in a tricky situation as he ate the candy that Fishman Island was paying to Big Mom for protection. So when Big Mom calls wondering what's happening, Luffy picks up the phone and gracefully and tactfully explains what's happening. Yeah, I ate your protection candy, you dumb asshole. I'm also shredded as fuck, and I'm gonna steal this island from you when I make it to the new world. See you soon, and bring a mop for your blood. Also, P.S. I'm gonna be the king of the pirates, not you. So that went over well. Unlike Punk Hazard, which a lot of my friends really seem to dislike, and I'm not sure why. I mean, we're going to the new world now, and the arc starts out with a dragon. Yes, please. Also, Smoker is in this arc. Yes, please. And Law is here too. Yes, please. And he wants to form an alliance with the Straw Hats in order to take down a few Emperors of the Sea. Do we read the same manga? This is fantastic. There's this fun body swapping plot, like sure it's cliche, but it plays off the likability of the cast really well. Basically everything from here up to the end of Wano begins to get foreshadowed. We meet Kinemon, Momonosuke, we hear about Doflamingo and Kaido's involvement in Caesar Clown's operation here, and like, if you saw the Clanad videos, you know that I really love when narrative seeds are planted far in advance. Punk Hazard began publishing 11 years ago. The hot and cold landscape of the island is just super cool. It reminds me of Freeze Frame Galaxy a lot, and I adore how it was created by this deathmatch between Aokiji and Akainu post Marineford. Plus, Tashigi and Zoro have a ton of great exchanges with each other as they fight this bird lady. Law begins to put his scheme into action as he organizes a hostage exchange with Doflamingo, making the reader think what's gonna happen next. And we learn that a tournament arc is on the horizon where the prize is Ace's old devil fruit. The Straw Hats saving all the kids from Caesar is really great. Nami and Chopper especially have these like super compassionate sides to them that really come into play. I like how Law shoots Chopper a death stare while telling him that he just got done slicing up all the kids. And of course, as usual, my favorite part of the entire arc comes right at the end. After witnessing firsthand who the Straw Hat Pirates really are, the Marines on board Smoker's ship hurl insults at them as they part ways, not out of malice, but as a way to cover up the fact that they love these wanted criminals now. And when the truth eventually comes out, Smoker just facepalms like a disappointed dad. Man, this arc is cool. Or at least half of it is. I love not being funny. Granted, the main conflict and the bad guys in this arc aren't very interesting, but dude, it's pretty short at just 46 chapters long, and listen to me, I was talking about it like I was talking about Water 7. I'd be crazy to say it's one of the GOATs, but it is nowhere near mediocre in my eyes. Good stuff all around. Alright, Dressrosa. Welcome to the new age of One Piece, where every arc is at least 100 chapters long. This one clocks in at 102, and this might be because I wasn't reading it weekly like I'm sure many of you were, but it doesn't feel that long to me. One of the major contributors to that is the aforementioned tournament arc. It doesn't play out exactly like a traditional one, as the fights are a battle royale between blocks rather than a bracket system, but the feelings this kind of plot give me are still the same. Like I said last time, I grew up with Pokemon, and everybody knows that the best part of every region was the big tournament at the end. Seeing so many old faces again, like Bellamy and Sabo, whose reveal kicks ass by the way. Meeting some super interesting new ones, like the big drillhead guy who lost his claim to fame because of Garp, or Bartolomeo, who is hilarious because he's a complete degenerate who worships Luffy. That's such an interesting and humorous angle to take with a character. He'll be fawning over the gallantry of the Straw Hats one minute and then stop mid-fight to take a piss the next. There's also Rebecca, whose special trait is not wearing clothes. You would think that with so many characters in this arc, not even mentioning everyone outside of the tournament, like this legend of a Marine Admiral Fujitora, we'd have another case of Skypiea syndrome, but no. I remember all of these people and thoroughly enjoyed their roles in this story. There are no weak links here, which is insane given this arc's scale. You've got remnants of Dressrosa's old monarchy grasping at straws to find any advantage they can over Doflamingo. His whole plot to turn his dissenters into toys who work to keep the country running, a plan which is linked to the tournament arc. You've got Usopp and Robin's whole thing with the Tontada and the birth of the mighty god Usopp after he does what he does best and lies about how cool he is. Law's still trying to do the hostage exchange, but the deal falls through. Sanji's crew is going to a completely different island, but he gets attacked by Big Mom, and all of this stuff, there's that word again, is tied together by Operation SOP. You cool kids in the audience might think that it stands for Sons of the Patriots, but unfortunately no, it stands for this. And the best thing about its execution was Usopp accidentally scaring this girl into returning all of the the toy soldiers back to their original bodies. Doflamingo, who just has this huge broadcasting network that runs throughout the entire city because why not? Dude looks like he's on a content grind anyways. Hey, what's up, crackheads? Make sure to drop a like if you fucking love working for me forever. Oh shit. Almost fell. He pops up on the TV and says, hey, this is Fortnite now. Make sure to not leave the string circle or you die. Also, here are your bounties. Bring me the heads of these guys and you'll get a golden scar. Keep it in line with how hilarious bounty systems have always been. Because Usopp reverted all of the toy soldiers, he is now worth more to Doflamingo than Luffy, Law, or Sabo. Now we're getting into what I like to call the all-out chaos parts of these massive arcs. Oda spends a lot of time setting up all the narrative pieces and then he just knocks them down in a fit of insanity, and the ensuing spectacle is always glorious. Everyone is fighting everyone. Characters are just like flying all over the city doing God knows what. One second you could be watching Zoro slash up this giant stone golem, and then the next you see Frankie trying to out Johnny Bravo Senior Pink in the ultimate battle of masculinity. But of course, we all know what we came here to see. Luffy, Law, and Doflamingo meet up to duke it out. And we learn that Doflamingo is mad at society for treating him poorly regardless of his social standing. Law is mad at Doflamingo because he killed his buddy Rosinante many years ago. And Luffy is mad that he hasn't gotten a new transformation in like 350 chapters. Enter Gear 4. Now, the fight between Luffy and Doflamingo is so intriguing to me because the most entertaining part of it by far is what most people will consider downtime. Luffy expends all of his energy just pounding down Doflamingo with Gear 4, but it's not enough. The dude is still standing, and Luffy reluctantly informs his allies that he's gonna need about 10 minutes to be back in top form. Now it's up to everyone in Dressrosa to buy him enough time to recover. From different members of the Alliance tossing Luffy back and forth as Doflamingo gives chase, to others holding off the birdcage for as long as they can. It's nail-biting, it's awe-inspiring, and it utilizes every character this arc has built up to this point. And of course, the payoff is the sheer majesty of Gear 4 Luffy shattering those precious glasses of Doflamingo's as he pounds them into the dirt, letting everyone in Dressrosa know that they're free now. After the dust settles, we see a glimpse of Kaido and we see Luffy interact with Fujitora. But something that always kind of irked me was the formation of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. 4,300 people have now pledged themselves to the Straw Hats, so many strong allies. And I figured that this was a great progression of power for the group. Luffy did not. I was so pissed when he turned them down. I was like, no, come on. You can't just introduce such a cool concept and then throw it all away. Thankfully, Oda doesn't. Not really. Luffy may have rejected their help, but these guys are just going to give it to him whether he likes it or not. Right on. Now you might have noticed that this video has kind of been a positivity barrage as of late, so let's balance things out and talk about Zoe. I don't think that this arc does anything that the other ones don't already do exponentially better, unless you like anthropomorphic animals. It feels like a supplementary arc that's used to set up the plots for the much larger in scale Wano and Whole Cake Island arcs. Additionally, Zoe is the start of the Yonko saga, also known as the Let's Go Kill Two of the Four Emperors saga. Warlords of the Sea? Nah, that's pussy stuff. We're dealing with emperors now. And Sanji's got a first-class ticket to go meet one of them as he's gotten wrapped up in an arranged marriage with Big Mom's daughter. Now I don't know what you mean by that, Oda, but it sounds to me like the next arc is going to focus a lot on Sanji. And if that's the case, I'm willing to place my bets that it'll be one of the best ones in the entire manga. You've also got this sleazy mobster character Beige and his crew, the Capone Gang, who are just delightful. And you have the formation of an alliance who will eventually converge on Wano to take out Kaido. But before we get to that, God, I love Whole Cake Island. I know that a lot of this video so far has been me trying to speed through the gigantic amount of content that has been set before me, but there are a lot of points in this arc that I think deserve our full attention. First things first, this arc's cast of heroes is cut in half compared to what we usually have. Sanji is being hauled off to the wedding, so Luffy, Nami, Chopper, Brook, Carrot, and Pedro, those last two are from Zoe, head off to go find him, leaving the rest of the crew to go to Wano. I feel like this extra extra breathing room really gives these characters a chance to shine. Brook especially is the MVP of this arc, but we'll talk more about him when we get to it. On to Sanji's story. His family sucks. All of his siblings are these perfectly genetically modified people with special abilities, and Sanji is considered a failed experiment because I guess they were just not looking to create a chef. As a result of this, his dad kept him in a cage and his brothers mistreated him every chance they got. The only ounces of compassion he ever received were from his mother and sister in secret. It's frustrating seeing a character you've grown attached to over such a long journey go through all that. And when Sanji arrives on Whole Cake Island and it's clear that his family still holds the same contempt and lack of respect for him, man, I was ready to just reach through the pages and do something that would really get me sent to the hospital because they're way stronger than me. But shifting gears to his fiancée Pudding. She's sweet, beautiful, all that jazz, but this is a story, so what's the catch? Well, Sanji doesn't really have a say in the matter, as it's made clear to him that Zeph's life will be forfeit if he doesn't go through with this. This leads to him butting heads with Luffy when he arrives on the island and essentially leaving the crew because he can't refuse his family. I love Luffy and Nami's reactions to this. Great characterization for both of them. It's kind of messed up to think about it, but I think that a huge betrayal of trust like this is the perfect opportunity to show just how much your characters care about each other. Luffy giving up eating until Sanji rejoins the crew and that powerful slap that Nami gives him with tears in her eyes, man. And the emotional gut punches do not end here. Up to this point, Sanji has been treating Pudding the same way he treats every other woman he meets. Dude's a womanizer, I get it, that's his character. Pudding, however, actually reciprocates for once, and he gives her what initially sounded like lip service, saying that he wanted to go through with the wedding. Remember the last video when I said I never know what this guy is going to do and how what he does is always so intriguing to me? Well, it turns out Pudding is evil as hell. This whole political marriage thing was a ruse set up by Big Mom so that she could murder Sanji's entire family. This will start with the groom himself, as when Sanji lifts up Pudding's veil, she's going to reveal this gross third eyeball she's got on her forehead, and then use the confusion to shoot him. And as she's confessing this to his sister, Sanji is standing outside the window with a bouquet of flowers and a bottle of wine, completely speechless. He just betrayed the people who care about him most in the world because he was threatened into doing so. He's back with his abusive family who continues to torment him. And now the single ray of light he still thought he had is currently yelling about how pathetic he is behind his back. The worst part is, with each passing insult, we just see Sanji standing there striking his lighter in the rain, failing to do the one thing that we've always known him for doing, as if to symbolize how broken and dejected he is right now. And when we finally cut to this panel of his face, everything clicked for me. Everything that Sanji said, the feelings that he shared, while they obviously developed way too quickly for conventional standards, they were genuine. On one hand, I'm glad to see that he isn't just this massive sleaze, but on the other hand, I kind of wish he was for his own sake right now. I couldn't even begin to imagine how much this hurts, especially in combination with everything that's happened so far. So, what's the plan? Well, Sanji meets up with Luffy and Nami, and he, against his better judgment, can't bring himself to see his family die. So they, along with Jinbei and Caesar Clown, against his will of course, join in on Beige's plan to assassinate Big Mom. Now, assassinate is a strong word, and you might feel some sense of reluctance seeing the heroes of this story attach themselves to a plan like that, but this is Big Mom, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I hate her. She's just this giant whiny baby who frustratingly has the overwhelming power to get whatever she wants with no resistance. Her whole backstory is that she got taken in by an evil orphanage, got hungry one day and ate everybody there, and then was sad. Plus, she was the one who came up with the whole idea to get Sanji to do this wedding in the first place, so she's a bitch, and that made the assassination plan all the more satisfying. Basically, their goal is to bully her, take her lunch money, and then kill her. First, they're going to destroy the wedding cake, which will 100% ruin her day. Then they're going to smash her framed picture of her foster mother in front of her in order to make her cry, which will give them the opportunity to kill her. And they do all of this, except for the killing her part. And yes, Brook is a champion for clutching the picture smash and stealing a road poneglyph from Big Mom while fighting her one-on-one. That is insane. But you guys know me. What I'm most interested in is in whatever the hell Sanji's going to do. When Pudding flashes that eye, is he going to like kick her to protect himself? Maybe he'll dodge the bullet because he'll be waiting for it. He could even try to tell her he doesn't mind her eye or something. All we know is that this guy, Katakuri, who can see the future, notices that whatever Sanji is about to do is going to leave Pudding on the ground crying. I was on the edge of my seat. This guy never fails to disappoint, and when he finally lifts up that veil and sees that eye, he says, "What a beautiful eye." The thing she's been bullied for all her life, the thing that she views herself to be a hideous monster for having, just got called beautiful by the guy that she pulled up to kill today. You know, this is why I love storytelling. The perfect mixture of build-up, drama, emotion. This arc is just so fantastic to me. It's satisfying stuff like seeing Sanji coldly stand over his dad as he cries like a bitch after getting betrayed that make One Piece worth reading, or any good story for that matter. And while I'd love to dwell on this more, the show must go on. We have two that matter, narrative threads to follow to the end of the arc. The first one is Pedro, this tiger guy, dying for the sake of the Straw Hats. I can't say I ever really cared about him, so let's move on to Cake Boss Anime Edition. Big Mom is hangry and craves wedding cake. She will destroy the fucking planet if she does not get any. So Sanji, along with Pudding, who is in love with him now, justifiably so, create this giant cake in this race against time to pacify Big Mom. The best part about this is how one of Sanji's core values, his desire to feed anyone and everyone who is hungry, regardless of who they are, comes into play here. I mean, he stops Beige from taking a shot at Big Mom until after she's had his cake. Was that a stupid decision? Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's also a beautiful parallel between him and Zeph, and another one of those mind-bogglingly interesting interactions he has with the rest of the world. I know I've said it so many times, but it is just so insane to me how this guy manages to continuously exceed my expectations in key moments. Pudding's ending is nice. She kisses Sanji and then uses her powers to erase the memory of it. As fireworks are going off in the distance as Sanji sails away to Wano, she clutches the memory in her hands with tears in her eyes, knowing that it wouldn't have been fair to let Sanji keep it. Man. You know, I know that she's kind of an asshole, but I do hope that she comes back before the end of the story. But enough of this mushy, gushy friendship and love. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna barf. I read manga to watch ripped motherfuckers settle their differences with horrible, gruesome violence. And seemingly out of nowhere, Luffy intends to give us just that at the end of Whole Cake, as he traps himself and Katakuri in the mirror world together. Now, Katakuri is basically Luffy, but better. He has similar devil fruit abilities, but instead of being rubber, he's made of the similarly soft but dissimilarly edible mochi. He's better at hand-to-hand combat, and his haki is ridiculous because it lets him see into the future. And he uses these strengths to body the hell out of our boy Luffy. But every single time he falls, he keeps getting back up. His philosophy being, I'm gonna learn how to pound your face in while you're pounding my face in. This is my favorite fight from the entire manga. The way it tells this story of perseverance as you're getting this beautiful spectacle of flashy attacks is phenomenal. I especially love that move Luffy uses where he like rockets his fist around the room and it bounces on nothing like 100 times before it like slams into his opponent like boom, 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 boom. But eventually Katakuri says, fuck man, if you're just gonna keep getting up then I'm gonna be the one to stay down. And he does. Time for the Reverie. So this is a super big event, a gathering of basically every important world figure, and all I could remember from it was being really confused when I saw two identical looking women start talking to each other. I know the whole Oda draws all women the same thing is a little overblown, but in the case of Vivi and Rebecca, yeah. So Luffy is now the 5th Emperor of the Sea, with a bounty of more money than any of us will ever see in our lifetime. Yeah, that was kind of depressing. Shoot for the stars, guys. You can make billions if you're evil.
Ginormous! What sorts of evil things do I have to do to live in a place like this?
There's also this shadow guy who's just named, like, I'm, take your pick. And he's probably going to be the final boss of One Piece because he's essentially the king of the world, and he has a big straw hat. Wano time. Wano is long, the longest arc we've had so far at 149 chapters. And it's really complicated. Basically what I'm trying to say is shoutouts to this video for helping me remember what the hell happened here. There are a lot of mixed opinions out there about this arc. It's loved, it's hated, and everything in between. Personally, I think it's fine. It gets boring, sure, but it does have a lot of cool moments. It was fun seeing the other half of Luffy's crew get like these undercover jobs. By the way, take a wild guess who blows their cover first. The aesthetics of Wano are beautiful, and the authentic vibe Oda went for with the traditional 3-act structure is really cool too. What isn't cool, and you guys might fight me on this, is Tama's powers. She can create Dango by pulling them from her cheeks, but they don't feed your hunger at all. That sucks. No, that really fucking sucks. I don't even think I care that they can be used to tame animals. How cruel of a curse is it that you can create food at will, but it doesn't nourish you? I'm dying on this hill, dude. This power is ass. Speaking of which, Kaido. He is not a nice guy. He keeps food from villagers, and 20 years ago he killed the coolest man to ever grace the pages of this manga. This makes Luffy so angry that he tries to take down Kaido right away. Blowing up the castle where all of his friends were? Who cares? Kozuki Oden died because of this man, and he needs to pay. This is by far the biggest how the hell is Luffy going to overcome this moment I ever felt. He hits Kaido with everything he has, yet the guy just gets up completely unharmed. And then he one-shots Luffy without even trying. I think it was genius as it sets up just how insanely strong Kaido is and necessitates the Straw Hats getting stronger while they're here in Wano. Also, Gecko Moria is attacking Blackbeard or something, which must have went in one ear and out the other because here he is, plain as day, still alive, but yet I still walked away from Wano thinking he was dead. Now we enter Act 2 of Prison Labor Zone. Luffy gets tossed in jail where he crosses paths with Captain Kidd again. Kaido's plan is, I'm going to break these two in prison and then have them both work for me. Have you met these guys before? They bring so much humor to this bleak situation by competing with each other in their chores, screaming at the top of their lungs about how I can totally smash more fucking rocks than you. And the good news is, the guy is taking the opportunity to grow stronger while he's here. He's trying to learn this new kind of hockey that he saw Rayleigh use, where you just kind of put your hand out to a guy and then they just fly away. He's basically trying to learn the force. Sanji beats up a dinosaur while wearing the raid suit he got from his brother, and dude, I know that you don't like wearing it, but you gotta catch up to Zoro somehow. There's also this guy, Orochi, who is the Shogun of Wano. He's just King Waffle, but again, there's this girl who Zoro saves from this sword guy who turns out to be Momonosuke's sister, and also, Jesus Christ, what else happens? Big Mom falls off a waterfall and fractures her skull. Okay, why not? And now she has amnesia. Reeling things back in a bit, I love the scene where Tonoyasu sacrifices himself so that the raid plan doesn't fall through. It was a weird case where I didn't care about the event narratively speaking, but I was just taken aback by the beautiful imagery of it, and it alone made me want to keep reading. And from here we get put on the fast track to the raid. Big Mom inadvertently helps Luffy escape prison, he learns that new hockey, Zoro gets a new sword, and the raiders gain access to this cache of weapons that should give them a fighting chance against Big Mom and Kaido teamed up. Why? Dude, you just escalated this mission from stupid to impossible. And before we get to the raid, we gotta hear about the Reverie and see one of the best flashbacks we've ever gotten from One Piece. Big News Morgan decided to do his job today and not take a bribe from the world government to censor the stuff that came out of the Reverie, so now the whole world knows what went down. The 7 warlord system was abolished. Now the 5 emperors are my new best friends. And also Sabo did something, but like, you know when you look into something to just make sure that you're not talking out of your ass, but nobody on the internet can give you a straight answer for some reason? I just wanted to know what Sabo did at the Reverie. Oh, you want to know? Okay, so here's my 5-page thesis about... What? No. Please, okay. I appreciate the effort, but let's try and be a little concise here, okay? So he did... something. This video was a nightmare. But no more negative thoughts. They are banned. Cleanse yourself of them. I don't know why I'm holding this. It's flashback time. Oden was a badass, super likable criminal dude who got disavowed by his family, and so he went out into the country and tried to help a village not be cringe anymore. Then we learned that he met Whitebeard and sailed on his crew. Then we learned that he met Gold Roger, and sailed on his butt-fucking crew. He went to Zoe, Water 7, Fishman Island, Skypiea, and for the reader, this is both a super fun blast from the past and also a really cool revelation, where you realize that the best character from the manga was a huge contributing factor to Gold Roger getting as far as he did. And when they finally made it to Raftel and laid their eyes on the One Piece, they all just laughed. By the way, I like to lock in my bet right away that the One Piece is a warm slice of apple pie with ice cream on the side. I don't know, I think I'd be pretty happy if I saw that at the end of the longest, most grueling journey in history. But anyways, Oden's death is somehow funny, inspiring, and heartbreaking all at the same time. Dude goes back to Wano and finds Orochi running things now. And if Oden wants to protect his country from Kaido, he will go out into the street every day for the next 5 years and dance naked. Guess what he's doing the very next day? And when he's inevitably betrayed, he's like, "What? You tricked me? You mean dancing in the street naked for 5 years wasn't enough for you to give up your absolute power over Wano?" There's a big fight, but this is a flashback, so the good guys lose. The survivors are put to death via boiling water. Jesus Christ. So Oden jumps in and holds his comrades up while he slowly dies, allowing them to go free. This is peak One Piece writing right here. Just a character doing the dumbest, most hardcore shit for the sake of other people. It is hilariously barbaric. The man's determination is so inspiring, and damn it, dude, it was really sad to see him go, even if it was 20 years ago at this point. Now it is time for the raid, which means I'm saying goodbye to you. Thank you for being my happy flashback, let's be positive again thing. I don't know what... I just kind of started holding him. This wasn't planned. The heaviest hitters from the worst generation and all of their allies are here, and so is Jinbei, who finally joins the Straw Hat crew. Luffy jumps right into the action first, as always, but quickly gets sidetracked as he meets up with Yamato, who introduces himself as Kaido's son. He idolizes Oden, as every good person should, but that's where my knowledge of this character kind of ends. See, being introduced during the raid portion of Wano is probably one of the biggest curses a character can have in terms of rememberability? There's no way in hell that's a word.
Rememberability.
Dude, English is so stupid. But anyways, I was breezing through the chapters at this point because A, the raid is way too long, and B, I was really excited to finally get caught up and just kept chugging along even if I really wanted to take a break. So, I love Yamato, great character, but please don't ever ask me why because unfortunately I do not remember anything about him. One thing I do remember is another great Sanji scene where he once again somehow exceeds my expectations for how he'll react to a situation. Spider Lady here has him all tied up and she's just like, "What are you gonna do, bitch? Call for help? Nah, you're too pathetic for that. I know your stupid ass pride won't let you. So I guess you're just gonna have to die." And before she even finishes that sentence, he screams at the top of his lungs for Robin to come save him. And wouldn't you know it, she genuinely appreciates his trust in her to call for help. What a great scene. So Zoro fights a guy, then he fights Kaido with Luffy, then he fights King and Queen with Sanji. Jinbei just straight up kills a guy. Headbutt Girl gets beaten up by Nami and Usopp. Frankie fights someone, Law and Kid take on Big Mom, which hell yeah, and they both awaken their devil fruit powers during the fight, making them even more busted. We keep switching perspectives between these 10 or so different fights and it just goes on and on and on. Really taking the wind out of my sails when it came to the big Luffy and Kaido fight. Obviously it has some great stuff going for it, the art is amazing. I loved it when Momonosuke turned into a dragon and then we had this big showdown where 2 dragons entered the arena, and only one will leave with Wano. Luffy loses this fight like 8 times, but just keeps getting back up. And when all hope seems lost, we cut to a panel of this random old guy in some remote location saying this. "Yeah, so the Gum Gum fruit actually turns you into a Looney Tunes character who's basically the sun god and is invincible, and his powers are only limited by his imagination." I'm sorry, can you run that by me again? Yeah, you see, he's actually the Joy Boy, a reincarnation of the guy who put the One Piece on Raftel. No, wait, that doesn't... He's basically like God or something. Fucking knock it off, why is he so strong? So Luffy kills Kaido by doing something he saw in a toothpaste ad once, and Wano is happy land. The end. for now. The final saga isn't even close to being over, so here's where I'll leave things off for now. And if you'll remember, I've got a promise to keep to you all. One word to describe this entire story. Now, I've thought a lot about this. I've been through quite a few easy choices like adventure, odyssey, adjectives like thrilling or comedic, that kind of stuff. But the word that I landed on was dream. What, can we fucking be serious for 5 seconds? So, dream. I picked this for a few reasons. The most literal one being that this story feels like one long dream. So many crazy locations, characters, events that make no sense but somehow wrap around into being cohesive in the end. One Piece is like a playground for ideas, a magical land where anything that can exist does. Coated head to toe in its signature whimsical style. Another is the importance of dreams to the plot of the story itself. It's no exaggeration to say that dreams are the driving force of the entire narrative. Luffy dreams of being king of the pirates. All of his crew members have their own individual dreams that end up bringing them together. And also, it feels like one of the few words out there that can encompass all of the emotions that One Piece gives you into one word. For example, if I called this story funny, then I'm disregarding all the serious moments. If I called it thrilling, then I'd be remiss for not bringing up the slow and somber moments that have some of my favorite panels from the entire medium. So that's what I think, and I'd like to hear what all of you guys think in the comments and why. Not for the algorithm, I genuinely want to hear what you all have to say. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Silent Secondary, Mr. Chocolate Salmon, Make It Totter, and Volume Warning,
Shrouded Sun!
and the rest of my wonderful patrons. By the way, new rewards are up if you haven't noticed already. I'm doing video previews now, and the thumbnail art album is up for all of you Dongo and above tiers. And I will continue to add to it as I make more videos and inevitably have more rejected thumbnails. There's also a Q&A tier for you Big Dongo family and up patrons. It felt wrong that for the longest time you guys didn't have any exclusive rewards, so I hope that this is a good start. And that's about it. Thank you again for watching.